Can brick and mortar businesses be good content marketers? This is Digital Marketing Radio, episode 103.
DigitalMarketingRadio.com.
I'm David Ben, and this is Digital Marketing Radio, weekly interviews with digital marketing experts. Find out all our previous episodes at DigitalMarketingRadio.com.
The big interview with David Ben.
I'm joined today by Mark Asquith. Mark, good for you to join me.
It's a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. It really is.
Well, yeah, thanks a lot for coming here. Well, Mark is the owner and founder of the digital and design agency DMSQD, and he's also the founder and host of the excellent Expected podcast. So you can find him over either dmsqd.com or excellenceexpected.com. So, Mark, that's two different hats you've got going on there. And one thing that maybe traditional business owners don't do that well is things like content marketing. So how do you actually find the time to do a podcast, 2 episodes a week, and also run an agency on a full-time basis as well?
Well, that's an interesting question. It's certainly a challenge. I think that the thing that I've really found is that you've got to have a really solid system in place. I think that's where a lot of people, regardless of what kind of marketing it is, I think that's where a lot of people tend to really struggle, David. So they don't really focus on the systems that they put in place to create that kind of content or do any kind of marketing work. They just kind of try and fit it in with everything. So with the podcast, it's very much about, okay, what's the format? What's the system that I need to get in place to be able to do that without compromising any content and the quality and so on. So that's what I try and focus on, is just making sure that there's a really solid system in place and that the guests are really at ease, they're really comfortable, they know the topic. And it's really then it's about just making sure that I'm really solid with my time. Things aren't creeping in. If I'm editing or if I'm writing show notes or if I'm publishing content, that's what I'm doing. You know, the bricks and mortar agency can't factor into that for that 90 minutes that I'm doing it on a Thursday morning, for example. So it is about discipline, and it's not, I mean, it's not as hard as it sounds. It just does require a little bit of planning, really.
So you mentioned editing there. Does that mean that you edit your own episodes as well?
Absolutely. Now, that sounds quite grandiose, but actually the format is really easy. I've got an intro and an outro, and I do very little post-production work because the interview format, the flow, it had to be really simple and really effective for it to work. So I'd set that up right from day one to be really define, challenge, conquer the problem, and that's the flow. So it does flow quite nicely. It's not as grand as it sounds.
So you're obviously interviewing people. You're setting up interviews, doing the podcast, recording, doing editing, and then getting it out there. So 2 episodes a week. How many hours per week would you say on average that takes?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question actually. All in, it probably takes, I bet it doesn't take much more than 3, as crazy as that might sound. So I just started outsourcing my show notes, which is the big thing that I really struggled with, which was just writing some quality show notes, because that's the thing that's really time consuming. You have to, for me, you have to enjoy writing, and I just that's not my strong point. I just don't really enjoy doing it as much as I like talking.
I hear you.
So I kind of I do the interviews. I've got a predefined interview format. So what I do is I've got a booking link, much like yourself. And what I do is I send people the link. They book and they give me all the info. So they give me the topic they want to talk about. They give me the 3 actionable tips they want to talk about and what they want to deliver at the end of the episode, the issue that they want to challenge, their biography, their picture. So by the time I get that, I've actually got a real solid basis. So all I do is do a bit of research and then log on a Monday evening, do the interview. It takes probably 45 minutes for each interview. And then I've got a really nice solid Dropbox system set up. So the virtual assistant, Carrie, who does my show notes, she dips in, she dips out when she's working and creates the show notes. And then on a Saturday morning, usually, my wife's usually working and I just nip in and I do the publishing inside WordPress, and I, tag the MP3s, I get everything uploaded, get it all scheduled out. And then the only other cumbersome thing, which probably takes another 45 minutes, actually probably half hour now, is the social network scheduling. So just scheduling decent quality content posts out to the social network, so it's not flooding it with listen to my show. It's it's really decent, actionable stuff that we're putting out there. So what I do for that is I pull out about 10 quotes from any given episode, and I use those as the tweets that go out on Twitter and the posts on Facebook and G+. I mean, the system took a while to refine, but I have got it down to about 3 hours, probably a week.
That's brilliant. And you're obviously big on Twitter and Facebook, but you're also into design. Does that mean that you also engage on Pinterest or Instagram as well?
Do you know what? Actually, no, I don't, which is really weird. I own a design agency. I'm not a designer. I'm more sort of on the business side, and I sort of help solve problems for people, especially on the marketing side. And digital marketing and marketing generally is my passion and what I like to do. It just so happens that I own a design agency, and the design side I really, really love. But I'll be honest with you, David, I'm a terrible designer. I really suck at that. So I rely a heck of a lot on things like Canva, and I get a lot of design inspiration and a lot of design fluidity from places like Canva. But I don't do much on Pinterest, and it's something that people are telling me that I should do, and I don't do much on Instagram. And for me, Instagram, I've been on there a long time, but it's always been personal stuff. You'll see pictures of family and friends and comics, as weird as it sounds, on Instagram. So I'm kind of trying to make that transition, but I don't think I've quite got there yet.
I mean, I had an interview fairly recently with a chap called Kevin Perea, and he's from a company called Wet Shave Club. So it's a very much an offline type of business, but he's doing phenomenally well with Instagram and Pinterest. And it just goes to show you that not just design agencies or artists can be successful using that type of social network, any type of business. If you think about it a little bit to the side and don't just try and sell and build up an audience and really offer value, it's incredible how many followers you can actually get.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And if you look at something like Kevin's brand, he's got a very nice brand. He's got a very nice website. He's put a lot of effort into creating that brand and that experience and that feel. And what he's done really well there is taken this online aspirational, experiential kind of engagement that he's putting out there to people, and the entire experience that you get offline, the things that you get through the post from Wet Shave Club, it continually transitions. You get that same experience. It's like the Apple experience. It's the same online as it is offline. So yeah, people like Kevin are doing really, really well with that, and it is back down to that. One, the brand, but two, the vision that the people out there are actually, they will engage with you at any level, on any platform, and any medium, just like they would face to face, So Kevin's doing great work over there. Really, really, really good work.
So, I mean, back to your podcast, why did you actually choose 2 episodes per week? Because you could have gone 1 per week. Did you do any actually research with a potential audience beforehand, or was that just the amount of episodes that you felt comfortable doing yourself?
Well, there was a few different reasons, actually. So I did start out as a single episode per week on a Monday morning. Here in the UK, so it publishes at 7 a.m. On a Monday morning originally. There was a couple of things that kicked in for me to change that. The first one was I wanted to do more for the audience. I felt like I kind of owed them a little bit more because they were very supportive, and I felt like the lifespan of a podcast probably didn't really work out too well for me, 1 a week. The second thing was that this is a logistical thing. I got a lot of interest from guests really, really early on. And it meant that when we first started recording, some of the early episodes weren't getting published for months and months and months. And I thought that just wasn't very fair on the guest.
Right.
So I increased the frequency just on that basis. And then the other thing is I just felt like I wanted to put more content out. I wanted to build the network. I wanted to build the relationships with the listeners and so on and so forth. And I thought, well, if I fall into that category of 1 per week, I do kind of run the risk of falling in with a lot of other different people. But I don't want to be the entrepreneur on fire carbon copy. I don't want to be the 7-day a week. So what's the middle ground? And I settled on the twice per week, the Monday and Thursday. Which seems to fall in line with certain iTunes algorithms from what I can tell from research with the rankings, but that's pure speculation.
Well, I mean, so certainly what I see with my downloads myself is that you get quite a few downloads for the first 2 or 3 days, and then they taper off a little bit. So having 2 episodes per week, I suppose, would take advantage of that natural ebb and flow of downloads.
Yeah, definitely. And I thought to myself as well that, I'd kept the shows at around 30 minutes, just like yours, David. And what I like that idea because it kind of falls into the commuting range. People that are driving to work, theoretically average kind of commute is probably around half an hour. And I thought I'm only getting people once a week if I do that. And it seems like a missed opportunity because the systems are in place for the podcast to be published relatively easily from a technical perspective. It's probably only an extra 15% work to put a second show out every week. It's not double the work, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the only concern that I've got about going 2 times per week is that what my target audience really want? Because I mean, the listeners of digital marketing radio tend to be people who have got a business and they want to grow it. So they're busy focusing on their business and doing other things. And I was doing quite a few more episodes per week at one stage at the beginning. And the feedback I got was that people were picking and choosing episodes to actually listen to.
Right.
And it's that's not necessarily a good thing. And people could be missing out on some kind of key point there. So maybe the better thing for me to do, I'm thinking, is if I wanted to do more episodes, then perhaps actually start another brand and do something quite a bit different and keep this one per week.
It's a great point, that, and it's something that I'd considered. Well, how to articulate this? I'd kind of worried the same sort of thing, and I didn't really know what the answer was. Just like you suggested, what do you do? Do you, like, for example, the first time I tried doing twice a week, I actually had a second. It wasn't a second show; it was on the same feed, but it was commentary on the previous episode. So on a Monday, we'd publish an episode, an interview, and on the Thursday, we got a show called Resources and Reflections, which was let's say I'd interviewed you, David. We'd spoken about digital marketing. The episode on the Thursday would be 15 minutes of me reflecting and delivering even more action and pointing out extra resources and reflections from myself and from the industry on what we'd spoken about, which was great, but it required a lot of research. And, so I sort of headed down that sub-branded route myself. The reason that I stopped doing that was that I considered how people probably listen. If we are first-time listeners to each other's shows, would we dig in and listen chronologically, or would we just quickly scroll down and say, actually, that seems quite interesting, I'll just jump in at episode 73, and it's a really random choice. It's not, is it a chronological thing? And I genuinely don't know the answer to that. It's an experiment that I'm running myself. So yeah, I'll keep you posted on that one. But I think it's a very interesting question. I don't even know if there is a right answer to it.
No, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know the right answer myself, and it's more of a discussion point rather than a question, absolutely. I suppose. So what about traditional business owners? Because I mean, we both come from quite a digital background, so you can understand why we would be more passionate about producing content and publishing a podcast on a regular basis. Do you think it's reasonable to perhaps expect very traditional businesses, plumbers, dentists, to be recording a podcast, or should they be focusing on some other forms of content marketing, do you think?
I think it's different strokes for different folks is the easy answer. But I think everyone's got something that's in there that they can take out and they can package up and they can give to people. And it's however they want to package that up. But I think the audio side for me is always very interesting because it's a passive way of consuming the content. So if you are a plumber and you are thinking to yourself, well, look, I know I need to do some kind of content marketing. I know I need to do some kind of extra curricular marketing, if you like. I'm tired of local SEO. I'm tired of local pay-per-click. Twitter, well, I'm struggling a little bit with that. And Facebook is Facebook. What else can I do? Everything else that you could do, if you create a blog, if you create a YouTube channel, you are asking people to take this attention from there and place it there with you, which is fine, but you'd need to really produce compelling content. And if you're a plumber or if you're a bricks and mortar business, that becomes something else that you've got to do. And there's no guarantee that you'll drag people into splitting their attention and looking at you when they could be looking at something else. For me, the really interesting thing with audio is that it can be consumed anywhere. So yes, you'd still have to do the same kind of work. You'd have to put the same amount of effort into producing it. But actually, there are more options for the listener, for the consumer. You know, they can listen to it at their leisure. They can listen to it while they're walking the dog, at the gym, in the car, commuting. And I think that's the interesting thing with audio. I think the bricks and mortar businesses, I think they can certainly benefit from doing this kind of thing. And the people who adopt this kind of thing pretty early in those kind of industries are going to be way out there in front. So actually, a podcasting plumber, how many of those are there? I'm not actually sure about that. But certainly, I would look to this kind of content for tips and for advice and, you know, seasonal trends and so on and so forth in any given industry. So I think it can benefit anyone, but you've just got to have that voice. You've just got to find your own flow and try and get yourself into the mix a little bit. But I love the fact that audio is passive. You can consume it where you want whilst doing something else, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's segue into the second section of our discussion. So that focuses more on your thoughts on where digital marketing in general has been and where it's heading. So starting off with
software I couldn't live without.
So what software do you currently use in your business that if someone took away from you, it would significantly impact your marketing success?
There's so much, everything from the standard Google Analytics, you know, right through to, I'm a big advocate of the new service called Hotjar, which is,
Sure.
it's you probably know it by the sounds of it, but it's
I use it. Yeah.
it's fantastic, isn't it? It's
Oh,
really,
absolutely. Yeah, and it's incredible that you get so much for free as well. You know, the video recordings, the heat maps. It's amazing.
It's ridiculously good software, isn't it? So I'm a huge fan of that. But the things that we run the business on, you know, there are things in terms of content marketing, you know, ideas generation is everything. So for me, it's things like Evernote, just being able to dump down anything in Evernote at any point on my iOS device, whether it's an iPhone or an iPad or whatever that might be, just being able to quickly sketch some notes out and get some ideas there. And then what I also like to do, the thing that I couldn't live without is because of the traveling that I do, I'm sort of on trains and so on and so forth, working at different places. Just everything flows entirely through Dropbox. So I sketch things out on an iPad, throw them up to Dropbox. And it's just, you know, it's really fundamental, rudimentary software. It's really obvious stuff, but that powers everything that I do. Evernote and Dropbox are just, they run the business pretty much.
So here's a slightly more challenging question. What piece of software don't you use, but you've heard good things about and you intended to try at some point in the near future?
There's actually quite a few of those, but the one that I'm looking at, and I don't even know how to say this. This is, I apologize to anyone listening. I think it's Cypher, which is CYFE, and it was a guy, a real good, solid WordPress expert that I did some work with on the WordPress Summit, online WordPress Summit, called Jan Koch, who got me onto this. And it's a way of pulling in all of your different dashboards from all sorts of different places. So Cypher, CYFE.com. It looks fantastic, and I've signed up for it, but I've not got there yet. And the second thing, and this is because I'm a bit tight, is the second thing I've not used yet is Meet Edgar, which is the new social platform. Well, sorry, the new social software to help scheduling and so on. So yeah, I don't know. Have you used that?
I haven't used it, but I've looked into it quite a bit, and I tend to use it myself because the way that you can just load content in there and it just automatically posts great content that you have produced in the past, because most software like Buffer App or something like that, you just have to keep on loading it in there and scheduling. But I haven't come across another piece of software like Meet Edgar where you can actually load content in and it will automatically distribute that on an ongoing basis.
I agree, and that's the thing that got me, because I'm the same as you. I use Buffer, and you know, it's fantastic software, especially if you want to be a curator. You use their daily app and you just line things up in your queue. But if you want to promote your own content, that can be really cumbersome. You know, I agree. So yeah, Edgar and Cypher, I think.
Okay, well, I'll delve through all the software tools that you mentioned there, and I'll include links to them on digitalmarketingradio.com in the show notes. But moving on to,
I wish I would have.
So I'd like you to look back on the very first day that you're involved in trying to market a business online. What didn't you do so well? What do you wish that you would have done differently?
I wish I would have had patience. When I was kind of started getting into digital marketing at the time that people were really starting to kick off about search optimization, in the days when it could really be strongly manipulated with not too much effort. And I kind of wish I just had the patience to persist and do more quality SEO in the early days for some of the old business work that I was doing. Just because I feel that the honest core of SEO has not changed over the last 10 years. I think the true core of it, creating decent stuff and letting people link to it, I don't think that's changed. But I think I focused too much on way too overthought keyword strategies and overstuffing content and bloody hell, like filling my alt tags and my title tags on my images with keyword. And, it was just all this kind of dodgy tactical stuff. So I wish I'd have had the patience and gone for the content strategies that are now commonplace, which I knew in my gut were right.
Exactly.
I wish I just had the patience to do it.
No, I was just going to say, I completely agree with you, and actually almost used that phrase before you did, and I said, we knew back then in our heart that that was the right thing to do. But the unfortunate thing was that it was so easy to rank thin pages with not much content on there so easily in Google and bringing in a lot of traffic to search engines. So it was hard to justify doing things in a better manner for users.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's been the big shift, and just, making things right for users. And that turns my patience thing on its head. I wish I'd have done that from day one,
Absolutely. Okay.
The this or that round.
So this is the quick response round. So 10 quick questions. Just 2 rules here. Try not to think about the answer too much, and you're only allowed to say the word both on one occasion. So, ready to go?
Let's do it.
Email or Twitter?
Twitter.
Audio or video?
Audio.
Affiliates or display advertising?
Ooh, affiliates.
Facebook or Google Plus?
Facebook.
Online press releases or one-on-one relations?
One-on-one relations.
Paid search or SEO?
SEO.
Email contact form or telephone number?
Ooh, both.
Website or app?
Website.
Social subscriber or email subscriber?
Email.
And local marketing or global marketing?
Local. Ooh.
It still wasn't a both. Most people end up saving the both for last. So I was intrigued that you used it on email contact form or telephone number. So why was that a both?
That is an interesting one. I've got another online service that I'm currently launching at the minute, and we are experimenting with both, and it's increased the engagement significantly. So that's probably a reaction to that.
Okay. Have you tested a service that offers click to call and different telephone numbers to actually track users at all? Or are you just talking about using this same telephone number?
It's purely one telephone number. It's a very, very small setup at the minute, very, very small service. So yeah, just one telephone number at the minute. But we intend on, as we build it out there, having different click to call numbers for different landing pages. But it's really in its infancy at the minute.
The $10,000 question.
So if I was to give you $10,000 and you had to spend it over the next few days on a single thing to grow your business, what would you spend it on, and how would you measure success?
It's a great question, actually. I would probably, I need to do something with people. I'd need to get people in a room, and I would probably put on some kind of Excellence Expected conference, Excellence Expected live, and get the people in the room that wanted to learn and build up those one-to-one connections. So it would probably be placing some kind of event where people could come and they could learn, nothing really in it for me apart from the connections. And really do it well, do something well, get some good quality speakers, get some really topical, really relevant challenges and help people overcome those, and just get people in the room that want to learn. And I think if you can give people that kind of value, that's probably the best marketing you can do, to be honest.
Great advice, yeah. And I've listened to a few of your Excellence Expected podcast episodes, and they are indeed very excellent. Now, you don't mention your agency, I don't think, at all in there at all. Do you actually try and just treat that as 2 different businesses? What's your main drive, your main call to action or your main purpose behind Excellence Expected?
It's really to help small business, and the reason that I don't mention it, I do mention it if it comes up naturally in conversation. So we spoke to Rand Fishkin about SEO, and I was very, very much okay. Yes, in the agency we do this, in the agency we've seen this, and we've seen these symptoms and so on. So I put it in there when it flows naturally. There are two reasons that I don't mention it really forwardly. The first one is I don't want it to sound like advertising for DMSQD, which would be really easy to do. And the second thing is that frequently we interview people that are in what would be seen as competing businesses. So we've got other designers, we've got SEO consultants, we've got marketing people on there. So I didn't want it to feel as if there was any kind of animosity there. I wanted them to be able to come on and feel comfortable. And it's by small business for small business. It's not by an agency owner for small business. So that's the reason, really.
My number one takeaway.
Well, Mark, you've offered a lot of great advice in our conversation, but what's the number one takeaway? What's the single most important step that our listeners need to take away and implement in their own businesses?
You got to think about the customers and think about the users. Just give them something that's high quality. Give them something that's got a lot of value. Give them over and above what they expect, no matter what that is, whether it's content, whether it's pricing strategy, whether it's service, whatever that is. But specifically in digital marketing, you got to get into their mindset, and that no matter what the tactic is, no matter what the strategy is, if you can do that, then you'll have much more success.
Okay, a great ending thought there to really think about your buyer persona. Is that something you try and establish as well?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's so important. Even if whether you're creating a digital campaign, whether you're creating even a website or an app, you've got to get into the minds of the people and create as many personas as are logically possible. Don't be scared of creating 10 or 15 different personas if you're running a big old campaign, because those people will exist. But the general rule of thumb that I always say with personas is if there's a distinct difference, point of differentiation between one person and another, then create a brand new persona for it. Even if it feels like you've got too many, you probably haven't. You probably haven't.
Interesting. Well, that takes us to the end of our discussion today. So thank you so much for your time and your advice there. So what's the best way for our audience to find out more about you and what you do?
Well, thanks for asking, David, and it has been a pleasure joining you. Thank you so much for hosting me. And if anyone watching, anyone listening out there wants to get involved, you can head over to DMSQD.com or excellence-expected.com. And I'm also on Twitter at Mr. Asquith.
Superb stuff. And I'll link to that from the show notes as well. Great. Well, thanks again, Mark.
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure all mine. And we'll see you next time too. Bye for now.